Leadership is the capacity to turn vision into reality. A strong quote by Warren Bennett that captures the responsibility we have to choose a good leader who can turn our own vision into reality. As citizens of the United States and even future citizens, it is our job, first and foremost, to pick a strong leader for our country. You might be asking yourself, how do I choose a strong leader for this country? That question can be answered with one four-letter word: vote. In this great country, we have the right to vote, which is something a lot of us take for granted. This right that we have did not come free or easy to us. In the next few minutes, I will discuss the history of our right to vote, why it is important to vote, and lastly, how you can take the steps to become a registered voter. In order to better understand why voting is so important, let's take a look at the history of voting. There are many amendments in the Constitution which address the right to vote and who actually has this right to vote. Starting with the 14th Amendment, which was made in 1868, it was written in 1868 and stated that all persons born within the United States are citizens and guaranteed rights and privileges. Then, the 15th Amendment came along in 1870, stating that no citizen can be denied the right to vote based on color, race, or previous conditions. The 15th Amendment was made with the intent to give freed slaves the same privileges offered to the majority of white people in the United States. Although this amendment was made with good intent, U.S. states were able to get around this law by passing Jim Crow laws, which were required for people to pass in order to become an eligible voter. The Jim Crow law includes a literacy test, which was made to exclude undereducated Americans from voting. This test was specifically focused on the African American community. There was also a grandfather clause, which said that if your grandfather was eligible to vote, then you are also eligible to vote. This clause also discriminated against many African Americans whose ancestors were not eligible to vote because of slavery. Also, under the Jim Crow laws, was a poll tax, a fee that was required to be able to vote. This fee was intended to stop lower-income people from being able to vote. As you can see, the 15th Amendment did not do what it was originally intended to do. The poll tax was taken away by the 24th Amendment in 1964, and in 1965, the Voting Rights Act was passed, which prohibited against the denial of the right to vote on the literacy test. Finally, the barriers to vote were gone for minorities at that time. It was not until 1971, just 44 years ago, that the 26th Amendment was passed to allow people 18 years or older to vote. This amendment came about after the Vietnam War. Why were 18-year-olds allowed to fight and die for our country, but not allowed to vote for the leaders who ultimately send them overseas? The 26th Amendment was passed quickly before the 1972 election. Now that you are familiar with the history or how we became able to vote, let's go over why it is so important to vote. It is time to get out there and stop letting other people decide what is best for you, and use your voice by voting. Voting gives you the power to choose a politician who represents your wants and needs and also addresses your concerns about our country. Our government was set up for citizens to participate, so if it's not you voting, it is someone else voting and making a decision for you, whether you agree with their vote or not. If you do not vote, You are giving the power to a leader who might take everything you hoped would happen in this country and do the total opposite. You may think your one simple vote does not matter, but it does. You are voting for your entire state when you vote. Stand up for the people who may not be able to vote. Maybe you don't know how to vote. Well, I'm going to tell you, and it's pretty simple. Any U.S. citizen who is 18 years or older can vote. There are a few very convenient ways to vote. You can go to eac.gov, print and fill out a National Mail Voter Registration form. And at the end of the form, it will tell you the appropriate address to send your completed form to. Another way you can register to vote is by going to rockthevote.com, which will prompt you to fill out information online, make the form for you, and then all you have to do is print, sign, and mail in the form. I have taken the time to print out some registration forms for you all, and we'll print them and we'll pass them out at the conclusion of my speech. People in other countries are fighting to be able to vote for their own leader. So take advantage of what we have been given and what our ancestors have fought for, and use your right to vote.